Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's Glenn McKnight from the Virtual School of Internet Governance. We're down to the last two presentations for this group N for our group. Our last presentation will be a different time next week, which will be with Dr. Walid Savak, which will be 1 in the afternoon. He's based in Oman. But I have great pleasure to have a good friend of mine, Ben. He's going to be speaking today on mitigating overuse and cultural hegemony on social media experienced by young African adults. Ben, happy to have you. If you could, if you don't mind, Ben, fill me in and everyone on the call today a little bit of a background on yourself and how did you come to actually take upon this topic?
Yeah, thank you, Glenn. It's a rare privilege to have the opportunity to present to the Virtual School of Internet Governance. So, as you may know, I've been an active participant at the ICANN multi-stakeholder process as part of the non-commercial user constituencies. But more importantly, I have also been someone who has been working actively in digital health. However, when I chose to do postgraduate studies, I didn't have the privilege to do research in digital health. So I had to do something that has to do with individuals or population that I can easily access on the road or anywhere in the society. And some of the issues I dealt with in my postgraduate academic journey were things like mental health, and also this particular one that has to do with social media, cultural hegemony, and social media excessive use. And this came about because when I did the first research, which had something to do with mental health, and that research that has to do with mental health was how do we use or how do we facilitate young people using mobile health applications to manage their stress. It now turns out that one of the primary sources of stress or mental health issues happens to be their mobile phones, the smartphone as well. So that was really interesting. And that research now led me to why do young people use social media excessively, or why do they use smartphones excessively? It was only natural when I was doing my PhD to look at what is embedded in social media or smartphones that makes it a big candidate for excessive use. And then the concept of culture also naturally came up during the investigation. So that was how I found myself in investigating this particular phenomenon, which is at today's talk, I'll probably just focus on cultural hegemony on social media. Yeah, thank you. Hello, Glenn, are you there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so let's talk about, so I'll just, as you might have seen on the slide, my PhD studies was done at the Faculty of Computing and Informatics at the Namibia University of Science and Technology. As you can see, I have a couple of supervisors. My main work was highly guided by Professor Kentaro at the University of Michigan. And then I have some other supervisors who supervise my work as well. So I'm extracting this talk from a more holistic work, but the focus of this talk today is essentially around cultural hegemony that exists on social media platforms. The outline will be a subset of the existing outline that we see. So my introduction simply is about recent observations and indications that we have seen show that students experience low attention spans during their university experience, and they also attribute this low attention spans or limited physical interaction or engagement to the excessive use of their social media or their smartphone. And in addition to this, we're also seeing that there's also the issue that these platforms obliterate local norms and cultures, especially in African communities, and is what an interesting review of why this is happening. Like, why is this happening? Let's look at it. So, apart from other issues that emanate from excessive use of social media, the issue around culture dominance as it comes to what we experience from those who use it excessively is what we want to look at today. Or those who even just use it, engage it actively. And you can see that there are other studies that have suggested that, like Barry 2017, Primack in 2017, Vanucci, Flannery, and Onasias in 2017 as well. So all of this literature have indicated this pattern. So, as you know, in thesis, you have to have problem statement. But today, I'm not looking at the entire problem statement. We're just looking at a couple of them. So, digital artifacts sometimes ignore social context. So, when you're developing something, you're building a tool, you're building a platform, there's a high potential or high possibility of you ignoring the social context where some of these platforms are going to be used. And that's some of the things we have seen in development of many platforms. We're not only calling a particular platform out, but most platforms, this has been the experience. Bradley in 2001 can attest to that in his literature. Also, we see that user experience tend to take in more foreign cultures and influence, and they regularly on these platforms that they regularly inspire local norms, as most of these platforms are designed elsewhere and they just infiltrate other maybe smaller platforms, smaller cultural norms or cultural values where this platform gain popularity. And then you can't blame all of these happenings. It's also simply because there are no existing theoretical frameworks that guide how you can use cross-cultural approaches when you're developing platforms, such as when people want to design a platform that they will use in global north, but the person is placed in global south. But what we have seen a lot of time is most platforms come from global north, and there's very limited theoretical frameworks that guide these platforms, which eventually become popular in global south or global majority, or now they can cater for their cultural norms or cultural nuances. So this background that I've laid now tend to instigate some research questions. And one of them is, to what extent, in this particular case where I have used Namibia and Nigerian students as my population of interest, to say, okay, to what extent do this population, young adults, feel that they are overusing social media at some point? Like, generally, what they're feeling about their smartphone. And then the next thing is, what dominant cultural influences do they experience on these platforms? And do they find any ways of some form of representation of their own cultural value systems or norms? And then finally, the people who design, are there ways we as users or people who are concerned about these issues can design social media in order to mitigate, first of all, maybe the use, at this particular point, maybe overuse, or also cultural dominance, essentially for communities that are underrepresented or cultures that are underrepresented. Okay, so we are hoping to investigate this phenomena amongst Namibian and Nigerian students, and also see how we can help address preservation of this culture or even helping spread some other cultures. So
Ben, quick question. When you compare Namibia and Nigeria, are the cost for internet access, the data used on their phones or computers, is there a substantial difference? Because if it's very expensive in, say, Namibia versus Nigeria, I would assume that the social media use would be low. Is that not an issue at all in this analysis?
no. First of all, students or this particular population of interest have gotten creative ways of getting access to data.
Okay.
So it seems data doesn't come into play, but there are various ways and various avenues that have made it either accessible for this population, irrespective of the countries they are. Yes, social data seems to be very expensive in Namibia, but there are a couple of avenues where they can access it freely. If you compare them, it will seem like data is overly expensive in Namibia, but in Namibia too is very accessible. Almost everybody easily have access to social media. For example, if you come to the university, you have access to social media easily. And I think here too in Nigeria, you can easily access internet if you come on campus or to some free Wi-Fi spots. So there have been some provisions that have been made to make internet accessible. And by the way, social media platform also provide some kind of arrangement that makes people come online. So, for example, Facebook has Facebook Basic or something that gives you free social media access. So access seems to be, you would have thought that high cost of social media of data would inhibit excessive use, but it seems it's not slowing it down at all.
Okay.
So yeah, it might be worth focusing on that topic in a subsequent research or study, but at this moment, it doesn't look like a significant decider if somebody uses social media excessively or not, because young people are able to access social media or use data easily. How they get it done, left to be discovered, but they tend to have access to it. Yeah. So that's what I've observed. But certainly data is more expensive in Namibia, but it seems more accessible. But it's
Okay,
more
thank you.
expensive in Namibia. Yeah,
That's
thank
good.
you. Yeah, so in this study, we are going to look essentially what ways does cultural hegemony of Western social media influence can be reduced or to better reflect local. So how can we reduce it, or how can we better reflect local culture on social media? So we came up with some designs, which I'll quickly share. But so the first thing is to identify cultural design features of social media platforms. Creators can include to allow for diverse or wider cultures, equip young university students with necessary tools and knowledge for productivity, to create an online-offline balance pattern, and finally, maybe tools to help them adjust excessive use. So I'll try to move fast now. So here is just talking about social media overuse. And the reason why we're talking about overuse here is also is that it's something that you engage constantly that can easily influence your culture. And what is culture? Culture is just norms, ways, and acceptable practices of a group of people. Even includes how they talk, what they talk, when they talk it. Those that. So these are some literatures that I've looked at that speaks to some of these topics, especially concerning the context that we're in, how long university students use online, and how that might be a big decider in how they decide what to use and what not to use, and how that impresses upon them. So a lot of time people paint positive pictures of social media on the continent, like, oh, it helps people learn, it helps people to do this, it helps people. But sometimes there might be reasons to have critical view of social media platforms. So one student found One study found that university students in sub-Saharan Africa spend approximately 6 hours, and most studies report that the use of social media platform has only increased among, so there's quite increment every time. So digital technology and cultural hegemony. So you might have been hearing me screaming cultural hegemony. What does that mean? This term was was coined by someone called Antonio Gramsci, and it was to explain how one class maintained control over another class through cultural influence. So people might be like, no, social media is just a platform, we just use it. But you need to know that there are people who control it, who control what's available on it, how it displays, how, so all of that, how it's used, what profit gain people get out of it. So that influence is there. So the question is, Gramsci is coining this term now, cultural hegemony, is to explain how one class maintain control over another through cultural influence without the overt use of physical force or legal coercion. So cultural hegemony manifests globally, and it does it through relative influence of cultural artifacts themselves. So cultural hegemony is existing, but how does it spread its influence? So it uses cultural influence. And the interesting thing is that we all embrace our culture. We don't want to stop it. We don't want to we want to preserve it. So social media is taking advantage of that. So also, if you're wondering, okay, show me an evidence of cultural where cultural hegemony has been adequately used. One of them is European languages. See, I'm speaking in English, and when I speak to my brother or sister, I speak in English to them. And I have no business with English at that time that I want to speak to them. But now I've picked up the English language, and even when I talk to my sibling or to anyone, I use it more often than not. So that's cultural hegemony through the use of the English language. So cultural hegemony and social media, how do they really relate? Social media's role in cultural hegemony is to influence popular trends, set up popular trends, and get many people to copy it. So that's one, setting up cultural influence. So popular culture on social media also, can you hold on, please? Come in. So, so social media has become um, cultural hegemony, a channel for cultural hegemony, as Quet 2019 said and Tang Chan 2020. So social media platforms, either in their design, their operations, and content, or even the content they propagate, are dominated by rich Western values. So you can see as Motatsebe as identified in 2019. So social media role in cultural hegemony is to set up popular influences, either in music taste or fashion trends. So those are the things. So popular culture on social media also listed below. So one of the questions that was said before is that you could have social media become a place where you come, meet with people, and the connection you build with people form the basis of your value system of that platform. However, that has changed drastically, where social media has become a function of uh, likes and shares and engagement. It doesn't matter what the engagement is, as long as there's engagement. So even if the engagement is terrible, it doesn't matter as long as the engagement is there. So there was a principle or theory that had social media engagement theory. So the theory was supposed to say like the definition of user experience as the content of direct observation of or participation in an event. So he puts it like this, that because of the activities an individual performs on the social media platform, that's what gives him or her value in relation to that social media platform. if I talk to my neighbors every day on social media platform, it will engage, it will encourage me to keep preserving the platform because it gives me value. But that was then. All of that has changed because now you just need count, you need numbers, you need engagement, you just need everything. So we now challenge this theory, if this theory is going to stand or not. So these are some of the things that makes the theory, some of the claim by the theory that makes the theory sound over time has become weakened. So this, I use grounded theory and I use constructivist grounded theory. So what we did was to set up empirical data, collected the data, and then analyze the data, and additional participants. So have participants evaluate the data and see if it can fit the purpose. So this work involved first phase and second phase, interrogated people to find their feeling about their understanding of cultural hegemony and social media. So we use semi-structured interviews to get content, elicit feedback from members. Yeah. So, and also the principle we used here was Kathy Sharma's, which is about social constructivist grounded theory. And approach allow the researcher to understand and suggest a culturally appropriate framework suggestion to address social media excessive use. This is the period, and those are the people involved in the research. I had 25 minutes with. So this is also the methodology. So in this work, I attempted to create a theory. And a theory is something that explains positivist view, which is about which is about certainty of the theory. But in this case, we're building a theory that proves another theory. So what are the findings that we found out? We found out that participants expressed social media in some form of addiction or self-harm, but they also found that they spend too much time on social media, and their parents always query them to mind how long they watch it. So, but there's the general mixed feeling of social media, how it works and how it does not work. So I'll quickly read some of the findings I've gotten. So I think sometimes I forget myself. These are some users responding. Some people say they forget themselves by themselves. They are just there and they just forget they are there. And it's simply because they are lost in their thoughts or in whatever they are watching. So social media, some people also think that social media harm them academically because they spend too much time using social media. And some said they are addictive. You can't stop once you start. Similarly, practice. I tried. So a lot of young people have tried different ways to stop the excessive use of social media, but it's not helpful. So we need to look for how to address the addictive nature of social media. So these were some of the things we confirmed and we found. So common social media usage pattern. So most people that I know use social media like as regular as possible. And social media platform frequently mentioned by study panel participants include WhatsApp, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. So these are all the platforms that they use. So we need to look at this platform and see what they take from this platform to contribute to make sure it's aligned. So the participants also express various attitude and belief about this platform that reflect common opinions led by users worldwide. So you can see all of these are different mentioning and different work that's gone ahead of us. So here we also found out that findings of review of culture on social media. We're going to discuss that. Both Namibia and Nigerian university students make heavy use of what's popular social media. Just like I mentioned to you. Yeah, they all use social media heavily. So Namibian views of culture on social media. So you can see that participants really did not believe that existing social media platform reflected their culture. So you can also see that N4 expressed shock seeing children from other countries talking back to their parents. So that girl was surprised, like, no, our parents don't do this, you can't do it. So this one also found out that she has an open mind now that coaches, churches around them. Okay. So social media and cultural hegemony, again, we can also see that Namibia and Nigerian students participating expressed awareness of social media reflected in difference and biases. So some people believe that their culture is expressed. Some people like, no, it's not. And so I would say social media influenced a bit of my life. Yes, I feel since being exposed to social media, I've become more of a free thinker. I've become more open-minded to other people. So people are saying, instead of saying, oh, I'm stronger with my faith, I say, look, I'm stronger with my message. I'm stronger with what I understand. I'm going to go and share it. So that's the way Namibians see it. How do Nigerians see it? Nigerians do not say anything wrong with social media. They just say yes, yes, yes. Response when asked if they use different between Nigerian and Western users of social media, if they have difference between them. Yes, yes, Nigerians are actually trying. Yeah, but the Americans are still more superior when it comes to the use of technology. So they believe, Nigerians believe that foreigners are better. So, yeah, so that's we also see now that some social media platforms do not allow. So people also worried about economic virtues that social media brings on board, which is do they use uh, available tools or do they local resource to build social media platforms? And we can see here that there are no awareness of digital colonization. So a lot of people do not know that social media is exploiting them. They'll be like, oh, we're using. So it's because of the bias of you not coming from where. So some students know that social media is not from their country, but there's hardly anything they can do. So empirical evidence of social media role as a vehicle for global. By the way, I might not be able to see your hand when you raise it if there's anybody in the room. Okay, so let's continue. So natural subjects of cultural hegemony are rarely conscious or of it. So what makes cultural hegemony funny is that when somebody is under it, you don't know that you're under it. You are supporting your oppressor. You are supporting the person, thinking, okay, where are they? Where are they? So it's important to understand that cultural hegemony most times is not open to those involved, except external people look at it and see the difference. Yeah. So it's also important, like we should look at critical difference between awareness of cultural dominance on the one hand and the consciousness of the cultural hegemony on the other side. So having said everything I want to say about social media and cultural hegemony and the need for us to approach social media with our culture in mind and all of that, it's important to also design a prototype to give flesh to the ideas that we're talking about. So the first one is that the researcher would review the app and review the content so that you don't fall into a victim situation. You just review it. So a prototype was also going to be designed to compare the design principle and the ideas to some of the students. So to see, I mean, some users, not just students, users, young users, to see if they can design a culturally appropriate social media platform that they can use. So as we embark on that, we came up with some of these interesting designs that uses other things that are very practical and important to the people. Yeah. So these are the difference. So you can see from this design how we are representing culture and just displaying it. So you can see on this platform, we're talking about the person is not buried inside design or inside smartphone, but they're involved in practical experiences or connections. So, but you can also see on the app that we have cultural designs and all of that. We also have things like, I think it's about time for you to go and play. I think it's good for you to make friends. So this kind of app nudge you to do something interesting, while ordinarily you would have just kept to yourself, telling you, are you not going to run today? Are you not going to walk? What did we agree? What you're saying you are going to do? So that's the design. You can also see the design in this place. It offers offline and online mode, because the reality here is that oftentimes the internet goes off and people will still have to use. So you can see dresses and patterns there. So we also have things like story to just encourage cultural norms, which in current platform is not existing. So all of this connects people to their roots rather than online. So these are some of the people that designed with me. These are some of the designs that the people did, and they started recommending. These are some of the designs they did. The way they express their own social media. Some wrote, get African developers in a format that will properly display African holidays, cultures, entertainment. So you see, however, the main problem is too much exposure to the app. So someone feels like the app is overly available. Okay. So you can see all the designs, they have interesting things. Design, they are all seeing something. Okay. So we did have some design discussions, and many of the people who designed it feel like there should be some level of restrictions on social media, age barriers. People shouldn't be allowed to go on social media every time. We should try and detoxify. These are different ways we can manage excessive use of social media. So some of the things we also suggest is that people who have succeeded in it should cut and make it available to those yet to. So some young students believe that government can save the day, and others believe government promotes scholarship or things that encourage students to stay in school before they start jumping online and things like that, things that motivate and inspire. So those are the things we have discussed. So finally, in case you are still wondering, okay, what do you mean by cultural hegemony? So most of our platform design is California based. And when someone designs something, there is a tendency that they'll carry over what they develop into the artifact. They will use it, they will touch it, so those are some of the things that will happen. So with that said, other ways that cultural hegemony is experienced is tools. I mean, I'm trying to phrase it like, if you look at the relationship dynamics in most of these stores, you find out that it does not regard things like respect, gentleness, kindness, all of that. Everybody is aggressive, everybody is screaming, and then it's difficult to think wise, to think of what to do, to prepare. So once you see the design that doesn't look like something different from what you are used to, there's a tendency to ignore it, and that is very bad for business. So what would you like to discuss concerning social media platforms? We also know that social media platforms are designed in such a way that they fit the narrative of the global West and provide no avenue to update or redress the platforms that one has part. So this is a good point to start a conversation if there's anybody in the room. Anybody?
So Ben, so we see some efforts in Australia, UK, the UK safety law, age verification systems. So do you think some of these legislative changes to recognize the addiction or exploitation of young people, do you think the move should be voluntary by the companies, or do you think the legislative efforts is the way to go in order to make a substantial change on this?
So thank you, Glenn, for that question. As you can see, this is an extensive study. It had about almost 20 students were involved. No, it's more than 20, like 44 students were involved. At the end of the day, the students wanted government to take action. Everybody agrees that social media has some challenges. However, if the government can be trusted, if they are legitimate, I think to a certain extent, yes, they might be able to make some progress. But or they might have earned the people's trust, and they might be able to help avert some of the problems we are seeing right now. But in a situation where you don't trust the government, or where you think the government are also corrupt, it's difficult to invite them to lead the process of creating laws. Because what we have realized, that places where they created the laws, they've sabotaged it or used it as a weapon. But I think country as defenders of the community might need to rise up and support or help bring about sanity. But in terms of police, it's hard to say, but we hope so.
The other element in this whole discussion on government imposition of different verification systems and all, there's advocates from advocacy groups that say it's a violation of human rights and their privacy. And so how do you balance the whole issue of protecting children at the same time protecting their their rights of free speech and access to information. So it seems that it's a careful line one has to cross. How do you balance this? I don't see a solution to it. I just see it two diametrically opposed views, and some political powers will exploit for political reasons.
Yes, so that's why I mentioned trust at the beginning. But also, if you see some of the implications of social media, the cases of mental health or poor performance in universities or high schools that can be traceable to excessive use of some of these tools, it's only natural that the person who is taking responsibility over a child would want the government of the country where he or she lives to make an effort. It doesn't mean the effort is correct, or just make an effort. So, concerning the issue of fundamental human rights, I mean, when people are under their parents are so responsible persons for them. And if they see you that you are doing something that is detrimental to your future, human rights can come in between. Basic parenting still permits you to discipline your child to succeed. But if basic um, basic human rights, like in order to oblige to human rights, now preventing you from taking care of your kids properly, then something is wrong. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, at some point in time, we need to have this careful balance between human rights and freedom of speech, and the need to implement technology that really solves our problem.
Just going to the level of the UN or UNESCO or any of those international agencies, is there any effort afoot that the international bodies are actually taking notice of this problem? Since they talk about human rights and preservation of culture and the caution of any kind of digital colonialism, but are they doing, or from a international agency point of view, are they making any movements through the IGF or others to actually make these companies accountable?
No, they are not. At least as far as I'm concerned, they are limited literature. In other climate, maybe like in the global north, in the US, we can see TikTok struggle. We've seen the parliamentarian or the senators inviting tech officials to come and defend different things. In Africa or in Nigeria, we don't see that. Rather, we see big tech being invited to come and dance and have party and all of that. No one is saying, look, what you are designing is not representing us. How can we adjust it so that it suits our realities and speak to our needs? Instead, what we have is technology optimism by African governments officials and all of that, who just want the trip to be over, who just wants to engage these popular platforms for whatsoever reason. So that's what I observe.
So I don't have any more questions. I'll be sharing this recording with the students, and don't be surprised people contacting you directly. Is it okay to give your email address, Ben?
Sure. It's I can give my email address. Another thing I like to say before we conclude also is that I don't know if I did that. Okay, I didn't do that here. So we did have some design approaches that I've shared with you. Most of them talked about creating tools and platforms that tolerate multiple things for social media platforms, or things social media platforms can do to make it sustainable. Because right now we have young people that are deleting their social media apps because they don't have ways and manners to design it. And some of the things we see, I don't want to miss this point, is the fact that a one size fit all will not work. We need a world with diverse culture, experience, and all of that. Then to blanket the entire world with one policy or one approach is not a smart way to that social media platform should go. What should be possible is that different countries should have ability to customize global social media platforms to their local norms such that it reflects their reality. And some of the things you see is that, for example, if you look at emojis that social media platforms have, they are counter what many cultures express, especially in Africa. They use things that are opposite or in contradiction. For example, fire. Fire is a very sacred item in Namibia.
Right. Yeah.
But on social media, it's used for fun. It's used to, for vain things. You're on fire, you're hot. But in Namibia, fire is delicate. It's sacred, you know. So things like this, and it seems social media owners or platform owners are tone deaf to some of these ideas, and you know, also the concept of using social media and being on it all day or every time is not appropriate. Social media platforms should be enablers to strengthen offline cultures and behaviors and relationships. So social media should have ability to instigate that or inspire that. Like, hey, go and meet your friend. Oh, go and play with your friend. Or encourage local festivals, not just telling us about American festivals, values in America, rather than telling us about local issues. It should encourage other virtues, not just popularity, massive number of followers, and all of that. It should encourage values that cultures celebrate, maybe integrity, kindness, things like that. That's the way the platforms should be. Sorry, please. That's the way platforms should be. So that's some of the things that I also want to say concerning social media platforms as it relates to social media norms. And some of these algorithms that are used across board, they should carry. A lot of young people that participated in this is saying, look, these platforms should use African developers who understand the norms, the entertainment, and all of that. And finally, it should also be economically empowering for African countries or for people's culture in their local environment. It shouldn't be taking money from communities, local communities, and be taking it to California or to people in the cities. It should help local economies. So those are some of the things that I quickly remember before stopping. And communities should be able to influence the designs of the social media platforms that they use. So, and also ability to have value for their content. Thank you very much. So they can reach me. I don't know if I share my platform. I hope to do more talks. This was an extra from my thesis, and I hope it's. I just hope this conversation is amplified. Right now, it's only popular in Australia, America, and some other part of the world. It's still not a conversation yet in Africa, and people are talking about ethical use of social media. How do you use something that was not designed ethically or responsibly when all it was designed for was to create engagement or create more clicks. What is responsible use of social media? You understand? So these are some of the issues at stake that needs more attention, needs more people to get involved. And African government right now are sitting like a duck. They are not as a duck. They are not getting involved in the conversation. They are just buried. Their head is buried in the sand. They are not engaging, and their youth are exposed to some of the problems of these platforms. And the only incentives they have is like, oh, it creates economic power, it's creating jobs, it's giving influencers money. No, China is now telling their influencers to go to school, that they must at least have. I don't say China is a better practitioner, but I'm just showing that countries that have interest in the future of their young generations are doing something about it. Sorry that I'm picking up some of this argument right now, but
It's fine.
we're having other part of the world just all they say, oh, it's social media, we're in social media age. Oh, these influencers. No, for one influencers, we have over 1,000 or 1,000,000 young people totally misinformed, disoriented, who don't know what to do, confused. Getting wrong guidance. And you are talking about one influencer who has bought a car or who seems to be successful. That's not right. So that's what the argument is about. Social media platform needs to take responsibility and accountability for the impact they cause in other part of the world. And yeah, some things like, how do you even tell an 18-year-old or a 20-year-old to deal with 1 million followers? In Africa or in my culture, a father cannot follow his child. So this platform needs to make room for cultural norms and power dynamics offline, such like cousins, uncles, proper connections, not followers or influencers and things like that. Yeah, so there are many more things to talk about, and I hope to share some of this. I just feel like social media has become an everyday tool, an everyday artifact for everybody, should reflect some of the realities of the offline cultural norms. Yeah, thank you. So I don't know. Yeah, if you Google my name, as it is Benjamin Akinmoyeje, you can find it. If not, I can quickly share my social media handle and my email address.
Okay.
I can do that by just coming here and just type in my email. Yep, this is my email. I would have loved this class to be more interactive, but since
Yeah, what I'll do, Ben, I'll the next time we do this call, identify one or two or three people in a panel, so we don't have to do a presentation. It will be a deep dive into these topics. So
yeah,
we hope to do a North American school during the Honolulu Tech Week next September in
okay.
Hawaii. That is something that this is what you're talking today resonates in any community. The Hawaiian indigenous community is well aware of it as well. First Nations throughout the U.S. and Canada. It's again this ongoing. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but we're talking a penetration of certain cultural values where we've never seen this before.
Yes, yeah,
We are in the hands of these students is incredible power, persuasion, and manipulation. And it's not just consumerism. It's how, if you start not appreciating your own culture, if you're not appreciating your value systems, you're undermining the foundation of your society. And,
yeah,
and this, you don't know how good it is or valuable it is until it's gone. And
yes,
we've seen it in North America. We have very few native cultures that actually have active speakers. There's a few people say a few words, but when you start to lose the use of the language and the cultural meanings of those words and location and space. And when it's gone, it's gone. So I think we
It's
have,
gone, exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we'll follow up on, this is a good primer, but I think
Yeah.
a good deeper dive with a few other people. If you have anyone you could suggest, we could do the
Yeah.
same module, but it would be into January or February with our next group, if that's
Okay.
good with you.
It's good with me. It's good with me. I really, this is my thesis. This is my work, and any platform to talk about it, I'm excited.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. And I'll talk to Bert Lum with the Honolulu Tech Week. I'm
Yeah.
sure he'd be very, because getting local people with you and others is the way to
Yeah.
go. So this is great. Okay, we're going to
Thank
conclude.
you so much.
And
Yeah.
thanks again,
Thank you.
and all the best. And nice to see you again. You look great. I
Thank
like your
you.
background. I like your shirt.
Yes.
And
Thank you so much.
all the best. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.